What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of That Game Rules, the worst gaming podcast on the internet. But I'm excited to be here today. We're going to talk about a very special game. I need you to go to your bin of awesome SNES RPGs. We're going to dig through that. We gotta push aside Chrono Trigger, keep digging, dig past those Final Fantasies. Go ahead and shove Mario RPG aside, and Secret of Mana we can push aside. We're going to reach deep in there. We're going to pull up Secret of Evermore, and kind of an end-of-life game as far as the SNES goes. And a lot of those are pretty baller when it comes to games at the ends of systems. Anyway, we'll get into that. I'm your host, Scuba Steve, and I want to welcome you back today. Every week here at That Game Rules, we're going to pick a game. We're going to go over cover art. We're going to go over bosses, levels, moves. In this game, we'll talk some spells. There's a lot of alchemy. We'll talk RPGs. There's a lot to go over with this one. Not a full walkthrough. We're just going to pick and choose some of the stuff we like. But as I said, I'm your host, Scuba Steve, and welcome to my seltzer water. I feel like have you ever had like a bubbly or like a flavored seltzer water that feels like you showed it like a picture of a lemon? Well, I feel like I'm kind of like that with this podcast. I'm like the essence of research and technical knowledge when it comes to any of this. But I am excited to be here today. We're going to travel back in time to 1995. We'll talk about some movies, shows, toys. Then we'll get right into the game. At the end of that, we're going to give it some awards. We'll talk about possible remakes. We'll talk about whether or not that game rules for sure. And we'll just waste some time together. If you want to get a hold of me, go ahead. Right now, the best way to reach me is thatgamerules@gmail.com. And tell me what games you want to talk about. Send me your memories. Favorite games. Tell me your favorite levels, bosses. I want to get all your comments and stuff read on the show. And, I'm working on a website as well. And this is all just kind of stuff I feel like I want to learn. So I'm working on that. That would be thatgamerules.com. And right now it's not much, but I'm going to learn that as well. And I also am in the middle of setting up, a Patreon, but wait, nope, it's going to be free. I'm not trying to make any money, but it seems like Patreon has, the kind of an easy way to do like comments and get like topic polls, and also as far as like DMing me directly, since I'm already dealing with Patreon. So I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear your reviews and comments and stuff like that. So what is the show in general? Like I said, we're just kind of dipping into some nostalgia, and we'll talk movies, we'll talk toys, we'll talk TV shows, but we'll really get into the game for the beef of the episode. But I do like to waste time and just kind of talk about fun things from back in the 90s if I just happen to remember it. The show itself, I just have notes. I kind of like to just ramble. Whether or not anybody likes to listen to that will be yet to be determined. As far as me, I'm just a 40-something father of 4. I live in Michigan, and I've played games forever, and I just want to talk about them. And I want to pretend I'm not an adult because I feel like I forgot to grow up somewhere down the line anyway. So before we get into that, real quick, last episode, Mario 64. Just another fever dream of an episode for me as far as just talking about anything I can think of as far as gaming and stuff. So I mentioned Pokemon as far as I think 1996 Mario 64. And for some reason I just like shot up in bed the other night because I do that randomly thinking of video games. And I was just like, I thought 1996 seemed like late for when Pokemon like blue and red came out. So it's like I double checked that research, and it did come out in 96 in Japan. It looks like I was wrong on the other end as far as Pokemon coming out here in North America in 1998. Not that I care too much about any of the corrections I do here, but there's a lot of Pokemon fans, so hopefully you don't give me any crap for that. I didn't play a lot of Pokemon. I think at that point, I got really into, I had a Game Gear, and that just kind of stole it from me. There was something about that bright color screen. It took Nintendo a minute to catch up with that, but it's not like the Game Gear was super popular as far as a lot of the games it had compared to Game Boy. That aside, I find it interesting as far as Pokemon goes because I see a lot of the reels and things nowadays of the issue with scalpers and stealing like packs of cards out of these Pokemon vending machines. And it's like, why can't us nerds just get the things we like? There's same issues right now with the Switch 2 with scalpers, and it seems like it's going to be a nonstop thing, and I'm not sure if the companies care as much because they're going to sell their systems and make their money either way. It does seem like in the case right now with the Switch 2, Nintendo, or at least some other companies are trying to cut down on scalping as far as not even like allowing it to be sold on some of these reselling markets. So that's good. I just like to see people get the toys and the nerd stuff they want to play with, and not these people that make a living off of swooping in and getting these things. But anyway, Pokemon aside, I did play long ago. There was a Star Wars card game. I think it was like Star Wars CCG or TCG. Same thing. They had like expansion sets for. I think I was playing heavily in like Hoth and Bespin and these kind of like but same kind of thing. You'd lay down cards with like zones and attacks and turn this card sideways, flip this card, like actual tabletop. That all kind of went away. There are some fun games now with card games like Hearthstone or Slay the Spire is a nice indie game out there. Not tabletop, like an actual video game. But I'm rambling. Let's keep it going. What have I been up to? What have I been playing? I'm actually exhausted because I just got back this morning from a couple nights of 5th grade summer camp with my youngest. So that was fun, but I think I slept 2 hours over the whole thing. I just can't do those cots anymore. At least we were in a cabin. We had fun. As far as what I've been playing, me and my daughter, she's 11. We've been playing Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, like the new one that came out for Switch. And that's more like she likes to just be Diddy and shoot his little gun while riding around. And I'm good with that because Donkey Kong Country is tough enough as it is. But I like the games where you can have kind of a second player like that. It reminds me of Sonic 2, I think. You could have a second player pick up the controller and just play as Tails, even though they couldn't do anything game-wise. They could just run around and act like they were part of the game, and that's always good for little brothers or sisters to give them something to do while you're playing. And my wife and I have just finished Split Fiction, which is probably going to win some Game of the Year awards. And man, that game it's amazing. I didn't think they could still make video games that I would be surprised at like the originality of it. And I think it took up until systems like this, in this case the PS5, to be able to run no spoilers, but essentially like 2 games layered on top of each other during certain points of the game. So I highly recommend Split Fiction. And my wife is not like a gamer at all, so the fact that she stuck around and played that game could tell you something as well. And also with Split Fiction, it has to be played with 2 players, but only one person needs to own the copy for someone else online to even play. So that's kind of your best situation if you're going to make a game that has to be 2 players, to give them that option. And I mean, I think we'll play It Takes Two next, which was the game that studio put out recently before that. But since she's into it, I'll try and keep her gaming as much as I can. All right, guys, we're going to get into a time warp and start talking about Secret of Evermore. When I say guys, I mean guys and gals. It's like even when I talk to my daughters, I just say, hey, guys. So please, if you are a lady gamer, I would be happy to have you here. Like I was just saying, with my wife and daughter, we play games together as well. And I mean, I grew up with a single mom and an older sister, so I grew up playing all those old girl games, all those board games. I played Mall Madness. I played Dream Talk. I played, oh no, it was Dream Phone with the little battery phone, and then was the Girl Talk the other one? And like Mall Madness, you swipe these little credit cards. And also randomly, did anybody play the board game Nightmare? It was like it had a VHS, and you would play the VHS. It was like an hour long the whole time you were playing the game. And it was like a scary game. So this host guy would kind of tell you what to do, or he'd randomly on the VHS tape, like do like a jump scare and tell some guy he had to go do something. So I played that a lot with my sister and just thought I'd throw that out there if anybody remembers that. But speaking of remembering things, let's get into a time warp. Let's get back to 1995, and I'm going to rattle off a bunch of other stuff, see if I hit any of those nostalgia buttons for you guys. Let's get this puppy up to 88.
Have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
All right, welcome to 1995. Today's time warp is brought to you by Jello's Drinks. Do you remember Squeeze-Its? They're still around. A nice hot day, you rip the top off the Squeeze-It, and if you were like me, you flew the top around like it was like the Batwing, because it kind of looked like a spaceship. I think I always pretended mine was like the Batwing vehicle for like Darkwing Duck. So I'd rip that thing off, and you got to fly it around like a spaceship before you go and drink it. So Squeeze-Its were popular at the time. Now Jello's, that company said, hey, you know, what sounds better on like a hot summer day for you kids when you're running around than maybe like Jello squeezed through like a 1/4-inch diameter hole. And they're like, that'll just hydrate you kids like you wouldn't believe. Jello's, all sorts of flavors. You squeeze that bottle and you're squeezing Jello into your mouth and you're drinking it. And like, what kid wouldn't love a Jello's today? Just get off the basketball court, grab a Jello's, cool off. Also, today is brought to you by McDonald's combo meal, the large size with it's the Batman Forever combo meal. Because for an extra 99 cents, you get these Batman Forever frosted glasses. Get yourself all 4 of them. You got one that's got like a Riddler on it. You got one that's got Val Kilmer's Batman on it. R.I.P. You could probably get it supersized back then too. Get yourself one of them. Get yourself all 4 of those Batman glasses, and then hold on to them forever. Because just like all the stuff we love, they go up in price, and then you're gonna pay that price, that nostalgia price. You want to put those babies back on your shelf. So thank you to our fake sponsors there. 1995. Let's talk about some movies. I want to shout out GoldenEye, the movie, because we all know where that's going to lead in another year or two. Jury Duty. Does anything say 90s movie than all of the Pauly Shore? We had Jury Duty. We had Biodome. We had Son-in-Law. I think my favorite might be Encino Man. We'll keep going down. We got a lot of weird, like the internet was just coming around, so we had a lot of weird movies around those. You had The Net with Sandra Bullock, who I've always had the biggest crush on. You had Virtuosity. We had a lot of apocalyptic movies. Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone. Waterworld. We can talk about that one day. And Batman Forever, like I mentioned, came out. And if you managed to catch it late night on Cinemax when the parents were sleeping, Showgirls came out that year. And Billy Madison. Like, who could forget some classic Adam Sandler movies, or my guy, Chris Farley.
I'll turn this damn bus around. That'll end your precious little field trip pretty damn quick, huh?
Rest in peace, Chris Farley. Man, I love you. So it's when I do some of these top lists, or when I'm looking at lists of movies from certain years, I have to scroll down from the top because the top is all these like Oscar winners and things that I've never seen or would see until I was older and would appreciate. So some of my, kid type movies from 95, you had Toy Story, which is like, mind blowing at the time. It's pretty common now as far as when we were that age, 80s and 90s, it was like the technology by the year, it would blow your mind. You can just look at like an NES system next to SNES, and as they keep going, your next progression, it was the same with movies, it was the same with shows, toys, like technology kept going up fast, and now it's just kind of like a stalemate, because now everything looks so great that it's like, you'll have a 6-year gap in games, and it's just like the grass looks a little better, or the shadows are a little more. So there's never that just like jaw dropping between systems. And I mean, if that was the case, and you can look at like the game lineups from studios too, as far as studios would have 4 or 5 games a year, and then they're down to like 2 or 3. And you look at games like, what is GTA 6, like 20 years out now or something, if we ever see that. And it's like GTA 6 looks great, but like, is it going to like blow your mind, or is it just like, that looks better? But I mean, keep them coming, as I love them. More movies, and just because I know I saw this in the theater when I was probably too young, Ace Ventura 2, 'cause I'm just a huge Jim Carrey fan, and he was having a moment between all his movies, Dumb and Dumber, Batman Forever, you had the Ace Venturas, Liar Liar eventually, so he had a lot going on in the 90s. Casper came out that year, and 2 big bangers in 95, the Power Rangers movie, which was meh. I mean, I was huge into Power Rangers, but I don't rewatch that movie like I do this other one, and that is the 1995 Mortal Kombat. We didn't get... It was Super Mario Brothers, the movie itself, that kind of set video game movies back, I feel like, for 25, 30 years. But I liked Mortal Kombat. I thought it was pretty accurate. I thought it was dumb fun for movies, and that's what I like. And it's just like, Sub-Zero and Scorpion, and they're in that ship scene, and they walk out, and it was just like, man, like, that's jaw-dropping there. And it's all pretty game-accurate costumes, and a lot of issues, not so much with video games, but even like comic movies now, is they were scared, mainstream at least back then, to do things like comic-accurate outfits. Otherwise, like that's why they put like X-Men and like black leather and these kind of things. And now I think we're finally gonna see some of like the blue. It was like Wolverine finally got his yellow in Deadpool 3. So it's like, if studios would just stay out of the way of artists, which they may be doing hopefully soon. And I think video game movies are about to have a big renaissance here, with shows like The Last of Us and the new Super Mario movie. We're at Sonic 3 with Sonic 4 already being announced. And the Minecraft movie, which was like meh for me, but made money. So I'm like, good, keep people making video game movies. I am happy with that. Let's talk a few TV shows. Freakazoid and Goosebumps. Now that show probably turned me on to. I'm a pretty big horror fan. So between Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark, I was all about those. There's still, I think, probably 2 or 3 Goosebumps episodes I can think of, and 2 or 3 Are You Afraid of the Darks that to this day I think are creepy. I think one of them had a clown. Which one? Oh, and then there was it a Goosebumps where it was like a living girl doll? Or that might have been Are You Afraid of the Dark? That one was creepy too. So good shows there. And then I don't know if it was theatrical or not, but a Goofy movie came out that year, and that was a huge one for me too. That probably without, not sure I've watched it with my kids at all, because who has time for all these things nowadays. But that movie kind of, I feel like, even inspired me as a father, even being that young and seeing it. And I had probably a crush on what's her face from that movie too. What was it? Was her name like Roxanne? I'm just guessing. But I mean, who doesn't love some Powerline? Everybody's still jamming eye to eye today. So if you haven't seen, out of all these things, I would recommend, if you've never seen anything I just talked about, watch a Goofy movie, especially if you have kids, and especially if you're a dad. Let's talk about some toys from 1995. I had all this stuff. Do you remember Pogs like I do? Man, those things were hardcore. And I had this like half-inch thick slammer. So, I mean, I was ruling the playground. But man, the thing, I had a 6-foot tube, I think, of Pogs back then. I mentioned Girl Talk already. That came out that year. There was Dr. Dreadful play sets. There was almost like I think they were going for like the Easy Bake Oven for boys. But I had those sets, and it was like you would make your own like gummy spiders to eat. And like they had beaker type things. So you'd make like this bubbly green goo stuff, and you drink that, and none of it ever tasted good at all, but that was fun to do. And then also Street Sharks action figures, which were definitely trying to pick up on like the Ninja Turtle fame. And I think Ninja Turtles by then was towards the end of their big run through the late 80s, early 90s, and even Ninja Turtles towards the end there started coming out with some crazy Ninja Turtle themed costumes. I think I still have my surfing Michelangelo with like a surfboard and like, and there I think there was like a, man, what was there, like robot ones, or an astronaut Donatello or something. But give them all to me. I wish I had all of them. I wish I had them still packaged. And you know, I wish my mom would have told me to keep all my gaming boxes and all that stuff back then. But just based on the markets for all this stuff, there's all these just separate nerds who have their own things. And I love it. I love collections of everything. And I was just talking to someone else about this the other day, because they were talking about guns. And I'm like, when it comes to between like comic book and video game people, as far as their collections and their need to correct people on things, I don't think gun people realize how nerdy they are when it comes to their collections or their insistence on correcting even small like ammo type phrases, or the initials for certain guns, and things are so quick to correct somebody. And I just think it's funny because guns are about like the most unnerdy thing, but I mean, it's still, people put their gun collection on the wall, just like of Ninja Turtles, just like Pokemon, just like all the walls of NES games and stuff I see, just because I like being in these collector groups online, just because I like to see everybody's collections. I don't have much left of my collection. We can talk about what I did with my collection another time. We're going to talk about a few games that were competing with Secret of Evermore at the time, and one of them was Chrono Trigger, which I do like Chrono Trigger a lot, and it seems like people that may be what they consider the best RPG for Super Nintendo, and I know RPG is a role-playing game, but in my head, I always considered RPGs having some sort of leveling system. So I never considered like Zelda games RPGs, even though you're getting new weapons and you upgrade weapons, but there was still no leveling up, and there was no like adding points to stats. So I think even in like the smallest form, like Mario RPG, where you could only choose, what was it, like attack, life, or flower points, even in that, you're still making this kind of decision between the three, so I won't argue with Chrono Trigger being the best, being classified maybe as the best RPG. At least it's original, and there wasn't the weird Final Fantasy situation where we didn't get certain numbers of Final Fantasies, because once again, like, Japan didn't think Americans could handle RPGs like that, and they might have been right. But that's where this game is. Secret of Evermore itself is kind of unique as far as the difference between East and West. But we'll get into that in a minute. Some of the other games, Warcraft 2 on the computer, also Command and Conquer, and I was real big into that, especially Red Alert. Twisted Metal, first one on PlayStation. So, I mean, at this time, PlayStation was out, and 1995, the 64 was either out or right about to be. And then you had Donkey Kong Country 2 came out in 1995, which just goes to show because 1996, then Donkey Kong Country 3 came out. So you're talking, we're back to those like year gaps between games versus now. Obviously, there's a lot more indie games now. And then Time Crisis Arcade, shout out, just because I used to play that. And that's the one where you have like a little pedal you hold on to like hide behind things. I know Arcade 1-Up just released one of those. I have a couple Arcade 1-Ups, but they seemed like, I don't know if they're going out of business or kind of did their thing or what. You know, I got the few arcades I wanted, and they're hanging around there somewhere. So we're going to get in this game. We're going to talk spoilers, but it is, you know, it's just an SNES game. So I recommend you still listen and you still go play it even after that, because it is a great game. So let's get into it. We're going to play a little bit more. It had a really good soundtrack. And again, because at the end they're pushing these systems like way more than what they knew to do with at the beginning. So it has a ballin' soundtrack, because I went to pick music and there's like 30 plus tracks or something, and they're all really good tracks. But anyway, I'm babbling again. Let's get into it. Let's talk Secret of Evermore, and let's talk about a few reviews. In this case, I had to hunt a little bit. I like to find the low reviews so I can like argue with people. But in this case, I found a C- by Tank Mage. He says, while Secret of Evermore may be unusual and fun in many ways, it is not without some serious flaws. As SNES RPGs go, this game is a bit short, and the level designs are perhaps some of the worst I've ever seen of any professionally made title. This game boasts some fine graphics. The art team had access to some of Square's best technology and went wild with it to create a game that is vibrant and distinctively Western looking. He is right about the some serious flaws in this game, because this game has at least one, if not two or three, essentially game-breaking bugs. The type of thing where you can open the wrong door at the wrong time, or if not game breaking, if you don't have your dog at a certain point, you have to run back and get him. There's a couple of those that is like for sure in a walkthrough. It's like you open this one door in one of the dungeons and you're resetting your whole game. So it does suck, but it's also how games were back then. There wasn't an internet for patches of any kind, and you just kind of, until they were discovered out in the world, I guess they just didn't know. But he also had the other comment about it being distinctively Western looking as far as North America versus, Japan. So we'll talk about that too. A few more now on these comments, very similar to each other. So I'll just run through these three real quick. He says, Back to the Future meets Secret of Mana, which is like a great way to put it, and it's very accurate because there are a lot of Back to the Future references, and the creators of Secret of Mana made this game. Continue with the comment. This game was the best game ever made for the SNES. I'd totally buy the hell out of this game if they ever made it for PlayStation or PC. Next comment. It was one of my favorite SNES games of the time. I wish to see it as a remake on phone and PS4. Next comment. Was the best back then. Opened my life to RPG games. I wish they would remake it for another system. So an obvious, a remake would be an option for sure, or at least a re-release. This one's hard to find. This one I don't have my own copy of. This one kind of fell into my little SNES Mini somehow. I think a little fairy went in there and popped a little present in there for me. If it was available anywhere, I would buy it, but it's not. And why pay a reseller? Why pay, the developers aren't going to get that money. So I don't, I say, support games and developers when you can, but especially with Nintendo, if they are not going to give us options to play some of these old games, then go ahead and emulate the crap out of it and don't feel bad about it. And I think every video game should be downloaded and put onto some, library type of thing where these things aren't going to disappear forever. But anyway, comments aside, I agree with a lot of those. I would hate this on, where does he say? Did he say a phone? Okay, well, don't put it on a phone. I just hate any touchscreen game phone that isn't like designed for that, like Angry Birds, but that's even 10 years ago if I cared about that game. So comments aside, we're going to start with some box art because that's what you had. Again, you're walking through the video store, or if you're at Toys R Us, you'd walk down and you'd have to pull, you'd have a sticker of the box art and you have to pull a little ticket and you had to go up to this like jail cell cage where they'd give you your game after you paid for it. But the box art, it's pretty apparent to me looking at this. I never owned it even as a kid, but I know I rented it a couple times on like why I rented it. The front of the box is great. It's got a big, sweet looking boss bug and then a guy and his dog looking tiny. It's showing the back of the dog and the boy. And it's got very much, to me at least back then, like Mighty Max vibes, which was a cartoon and a toy. It was like they always took toy between Easy Bake Oven and Dr. Dreadful. Then they took Polly Pockets and they made Mighty Max, which is just the boy version of those. But those I still have. I have tons of those. So you look at even like the cool thing is the back of the box art. Then the first picture is the in-game picture of the bug from the title screen. So it's cool that it gives you that right off the bat. And then it's just two other screens, but it looks very Chrono Trigger-like as far as the RPG. And in this case, it's an action RPG, meaning it's not like a turn-based, like a Final Fantasy fighting. And I like both either way, depending on the game. I like turn-based. I like action. And, let's just read the back of this box real quick because that was about the other thing you could do. So, Secret of Evermore. Discover the secret of Evermore. In Dr. Sidney Ruffleberg's old decaying mansion, a boy and his dog stumble upon a mysterious machine. By sheer accident, they are propelled into Evermore, a one-time utopia that now has become a confounding and deadly world. A world of prehistoric jungles, ancient civilizations, medieval kingdoms, and futuristic cities. During his odyssey, the boy must master a variety of weapons, learn to harness the forces of alchemy, and make powerful allies to battle Evermore's diabolical monsters. What's more, his dog masters shape-changing to aid the quest. But even if they can muster enough skill and courage, even if they can uncover the mysterious clues, they can only find their way home by discovering the secret of Evermore. So that's a good description because right there it tells you you have different worlds. You're going to learn weapons. You're going to learn alchemy. And the best part is your dog shape shifts because it's like my favorite thing about this game is the dog and the play between that you can switch between the boy and the dog. It's just so different to me than like Secret of Mana 2-player where you're switching between people. Just the story about a boy and his dog. It just appealed to me. So control-wise, not even like specific buttons, but it is very similar to Secret of Mana as far as like the circle menu they have around your character. So it's like when you pull up your menu, the whole screen doesn't go away. It just kind of plops a circle around that you can then kind of spin around to either equip stuff or look at statistics or your alchemy. So, I mean, and then control-wise, you can switch between the dog and the boy. Sometimes whenever you want to. Sometimes during the game, you're just the boy looking for the dog, or vice versa. You're just the dog looking for the boy. But the one difference is it's not 2-player. It's like Secret of Mana. I think you could 2-player. I haven't played that in a long time. And but in this case, it's just 1 player, but you can switch between the dog. And that was, I think, what still kind of unique as far as we'll get into it. Kind of the different worlds is more kind of like different eras in time, but the boy and the dog themselves have no names, so the game starts up. Let's start there. You throw the game in, and it has one of those sweet 16-bit like cinematic openings, and this one looks like really good, and I thought really like set the tone. And even as I was young, I wasn't big into RPGs. It like looped me in. I don't think I had the patience for some of like the Final Fantasies or the tougher ones. Like I played Link to the Past like 100 times back then, and this one a couple times. And RPG wise, I'd have Mario RPG tons. So I think I liked the simpler kind of versions of those games, even though nowadays I like a nice tough long RPG. So you had the boy and the dog, and the story starts I think like 1960 something, 1965, 30 years ago. And it just kind of shows this black and white town set, and it kind of scans along, and you see there's some doctor working on something, and something goes wrong, and some explosions, and then it pops to like 30 years later. And the cool thing is it like scans through the town again 30 years later, and everything's all like decrepit, and like stores have changed, and there's litter and cracks in the sidewalk and all this stuff. And so you start out, you come out of the movie theater, which was like, this game was designed, I think it was like the first, maybe and only Squaresoft RPG made in America. Whereas I think Squaresoft was the American division of Square, where Square was making all the good RPGs that we then ported to North America. This one was made in North America with like Western audiences in mind. And I think it shows because it's like another RPG is like Earthbound, which I really like too. And it's got a lot of fun, like gross humor and stuff like that. But it's like the game itself does feel and play like a port. Some of the jokes and lines may not like hit as much, probably based on translation. Whereas Secret of Evermore was like written with Western audiences, so they're constantly referencing the main characters, referencing essentially B movies that don't exist, but are kind of references of B movies that did exist. And I mean, so he comes out of the movie theater, and he's looking just like Marty McFly with his little orange life preserver. I mean, so that's another reference right there for you. But you come out of the theater, it's 1995. You come out with your dog, and you're already cracking jokes, but then your dog sees a cat, and you run away, and you end up at that like science facility you saw at the beginning of the cinematic, and you end up going in there. Your dog messes some stuff up. He disappears. You disappear. You get like zapped up into this machine, and the game pretty much starts from there. You who is it? Carltron, this kind of robot butler guy. Sends you essentially trying to get you out of his futuristic place, and puts you in a like rocket ship, and your dog's in there, and then he shoots you away, and you end up in the first zone, which is Prehistoria. While he's shooting you away, while you're in like the spaceship thing, I think that was a new thing towards the end of Super Nintendo. I don't know if it's where they put, maybe it was all games, but if it was a chip for the game where they could do like the zoom in and out on the graphics. And that was because I feel like I really saw it in like Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, and any other game where you're like flying overhead like you were in that one. Well, I guess in Link to the Past you can kind of zoom in on the map too. But it's this weird kind of like squarey zoom in on these like 16 bits. But it was still neat that they had this transitional kind of level where you're actually like doing the flying yourself. In this case, you're not. You're flowing into your first zone, which is Prehistoria. The game itself has 4 zones / worlds, but they're more like eras. So you have Prehistoria, and from there you go to Antiqua, and then you have Gothica and Omnitopia. And it's weird that like I've read all these words like thousands of times, but then you you never really say them out loud. So I'm like, Antica. I mean, I guess that's what it is. And so you have the 4 zones, and they all kind of resemble what they kind of sound like. So Prehistoria is like a caveman jungle type thing. Antica is like a classical, kind of like Roman Colosseum. It all kind of goes like up as far as your next kind of era in humanity as well. Whereas Gothica is like castles and dragons and kings and queens, and then Omnitopia is like the future, like robots and space station stuff. And this game being like a rental, and I think with most like games, whether you rented them or like the harder games back then, it's usually like the first couple levels that you either get real familiar with. Because if you rented it, play through the first world or two, take it back, and then come rent it another time, you're kind of, if you have any saves on the system when you rent it, or if you get lucky with someone else's save, or if you happen to get the game that had your save, you can continue. But I feel like I replayed Prehistoria a lot just to keep continuing in the game. Same kind of thing with, like, I could tell you all about the first level of like The Lion King for Super Nintendo, or the first level of Echo the Dolphin. So I'm not sure I've ever made it past any of those levels. I think a lot of people are on those tough games. It's like, and some people are fine. I'm fine just swimming around as Echo the Dolphin. When I was a kid, I didn't even know that there was a game. I thought it was like you just swam as a dolphin. But man, that real game is tough and probably impossible. But so you have your 4 zones, and also with each zone is like you have to trade in your currency as you go. So it's like your first zone has talons, and then I think it's is it gold? Let me see, you had talons, then gemstones, then gold, then credits. But the best part about changing zones was that your dog changes each time. So you start out in Prehistoria, you don't know where your dog is, and then this giant like wolf dog comes up to you. And you're like, are you my dog? And you have him like try to play fetch with a stick, and he gives you back a bone, and you're like, I guess you are my dog. And now you've got a bone as a weapon, and then bam, the game starts. You start whacking plants and lizards and all sorts of stuff. I feel like the learning curve was a bit tough as far as the beginning of the game. I think Prehistoria itself is tougher than the rest of the game once you make it past that. And if you're just playing the game normal and you're not doing any sort of hacks and cheats, because just like there's game breaking bugs, there's also game breaking, I guess, in the positive aspect of you can essentially beef up your character to like 1,000. There's, certain areas you can stand if which isn't, it isn't like a glitch unless you play it a bunch of times and know the kind of proper spots to stand on some bosses. Again, the same kind of thing when you watch like speed runners and stuff. If I had this game for 10 years, I would know like all of these secrets too. But this one is tough with a lot of backtracking and like guess and check essentially between bosses or alchemy formulas. There's also just a lot in the game that, if you do this certain thing at a certain time, things might change. I know at one point, like, if you don't loot all the boxes in this guy's house before you go talk to him, then he'll give you something, then you can loot the boxes. So there's a lot of that stuff that you wouldn't just know off the bat. The last time I played this a few months ago, I used a walkthrough just to try and find all the things. And mainly, there's a really tough, dark kind of maze. There's a couple of mazes, but like the solid dark one's pretty tough when you're the dog. And then there's a trading sequence that is like grab a notebook and like a pencil. And then if you're another thing where it's like a timed event, if you don't know and ahead of time you're going to start a timed event and whether or not you can get all your stuff traded during that timed event. So there's a lot of that in this game that makes it like extremely replayable, and probably why I kept renting it. But when you start out, you get to name the boy and the dog yourself. So my character was Scuba, and I think I just went with dog for dog, just because I like that. You get a lot of, as far as the character talking to his dog, again, like the pop culture references, the movie quotes, and there's also like, what feels like with this game sometimes it's almost like too much. There's like so many alchemy spells you may never find. You also may never need. There's other weird things too. That's like, it's kind of pointless to upgrade your weapon, because when you go to your new zone, you get a new weapon that's better than whatever your upgraded one would have been. It's like you switch from the bone to, well, even in Prehistoria, you can go bone and then sword and then spear. But then you move on to like, I guess like better spears. Eventually you charge up your spear. You can throw it as well. Or you level up your spear. You'll get a throw with it. And, so that's more of just like the trial and error. Each zone has, kind of the point of each zone is you're going to find someone from your time in that area, and then they can give you spells and help you out later. And it turns out, like, story-wise, each of these characters, each of these zones, when this science thing blew up in 1965 and sucked some people up with it, it created these kind of utopia versions of their own worlds. So in Prehistoria, you meet Fire Eye, which I think is like the niece of the scientist. And like she always, I think, loved like dinosaurs and stuff. So it just threw her into this world that like she made in her own head. And then the same with like the other characters in the game. You have the professor. So they're all kind of related to him in some way. So you got his niece. Then you've got Horace in Antica, and a librarian in Gothica, and then the professor himself is in the last level, Omnitopia. And then like weapon wise, like I said, sword, spear, axe, and then you start out the game when you're in like the Omnitopia with the bazooka, as you fight some stuff off before Carltron kicks you out, and then towards the end of the game you get the bazooka back. So Prehistoria, again, it's a jungle. You start out with bone weapons, exploring. It's like heavily encouraged. There's a lot of walk off the path secret areas that you won't find unless you're kind of just running along every wall. Lots of pots and jugs to open to get, talons in this case, or just tons and tons of alchemy ingredients, which is like really cool. I like that in games to where it makes sense when you have to like collect, oil and water, or flint and, this rock, or those kind of things. When you combine them, they kind of make sense. So when, and you would do that kind of like a trial and error thing and combine things. But until you get these alchemy spells themselves, you couldn't actually like just discover it on your own. And a lot of those spells you can either find, or people will give them to you, or you can buy them. And then armor kind of works the same, and armor's kind of themed per area. So it's like the first armor you have the option of buying in Prehistoria, stuff like grass vest, I think like maybe like a turtle shell helmet, those kind of things until you start moving up. And then the cool thing is, like, your dog levels up his armor through collars. So he gets different kind of dog collars here and there. And we'll get into what the dog changes into in every zone. And spoiler alert, at the end, one of the awards is going to be which was our favorite version of the dog. So one of the powerful things you get is call beads. And those are given by those people I was saying who are kind of in charge of their eras or utopias, and those are kind of like they'll come and do like a superpowered kind of move. Alchemy spells as well, you can level up, and the same kind of like trial and error. Some of those spells are kind of useless. Some people will tell you there's really only 2 or 3 spells you need to level up for the whole game, but I encourage just having fun and trying out all those spells. You may, if you're going into this game blind, it's like if you want to do a walkthrough, when it comes to games, if you want to do a walkthrough, you want to do save states, you want to use rewind, it's like play the game however you want to, however you're having fun, and don't let anyone hate on you for any of that. It's like there's no, in my opinion, like pure way to game. Just game however you want to game and have fun. So back to Prehistoria. It's, your first boss, I don't know why I always struggled with him, and then the last time I played, I just like blew through him. But the first boss is going to be this big guy from the cover, so it's cool. They just throw him at you real quick, and he looks really sweet in 16 bits. And with him, you're going to essentially, you got to destroy the heart behind his rib cage, and some method. I think I always took out the arms, but there's spots you can stand where the arms can't get you, and his the little like maggot slugs he throws at you can't get you, and you can just crank spells on that heart. I think the main thing being like you take out, as how it's supposed to be, I guess, played, is you would like take out the arms, like whack him open until he pops like his spiky rib cage open, and then I think I'd always just send the dog in there to start tearing up his heart. And then eventually you beat him. He's not the only. I feel like when I was a kid, like I beat him, I thought I beat the game, and it is like the very beginning. There's like I think 3 kind of bosses in Prehistoria. A lot of the worlds kind of have multiple bosses before their final boss. Prehistoria's got what's the other one? A raptor, kind of a raptor fight. And that's another weird one too, because it's one of those fights in games that, was it Mega Man X did it too? These fights where you're supposed to die. And it's like I would reset the game and I would go hard on these bosses until I realized, oh, you're supposed to die, or you get down to 1% health and someone comes out to save you. It's like part of the story. In this case, the raptor fight, you can die and dog will drag you off to safety. Or if you happen to beat the bosses, it's possible, although a little tough, and then you'll get kind of extra rewards for doing that. So I think it's cool. It's got it kind of both ways. It's not just an impossible raptor fight. And then it gives you kind of even then options. I'll get more in depth just on Prehistoria, and I'll just kind of breeze over the other ones. Because like I said, a full walkthrough, I'll be here for hours. But, Prehistoria, then after your first bug muck boss, and there's always gets kind of mazy. Even like leading up to that boss has kind of a maze part where platforms are dissolving as you go. And if you miss, you have to slide back down and start up again, and that's more of that trial and error. But there's something about that trial and error from old video games that it's like it gives you that kind of pride and those kind of bragging rights that you made it. You went through, you did the work to get there, and you didn't just look up the proper path. Even if you did look up the proper path to that particular maze where the platforms are falling, I think it's like 20 moves. It'd be like up, left, right, up, left, back, right. So I don't even know what it is, but it's like just give it a go yourself, and you level up along the way because you're just killing more slugs and stuff, even if it is useless to level up the weapon. But so from there you can choose after that first boss, maybe right after the raptors, you can go to a swamp area first, you can go to a volcano. I mean, you have to beat both areas. And then even like the volcano is kind of mazy as well, except it's not just you're walking through walls. In this case, you have to stand on certain, what is it, like water, steam chutes or something. You stand on like a platform and the steam shoots you up to the next level. And also what I love and hate about games is it'll have like these teaser things where you see these unreachable items. Zelda did a lot where it's like a heart piece up on a cliff and you're just like, I'm going to get you eventually. Like, I can't right now. And then this has the same thing. It's like I think specifically one of them like mushroom gourd looking pots off to the right that you can't get at this point in the game, that you just have to wait and see what's in there. I don't even remember if you come back after Prehistory or what to get that one, but it's random, the things I remember from 25 plus year old games. And then the main boss on this one is a snake boss, and he's really tough if you don't have the spear charged up to where you can throw it. 'Cause that's just one of those things where he's out of reach, constantly shooting ads. But I think getting the ads, I think I ignore the ads because no matter what, he's going to keep dropping ads. So it's going to have like a static 5 ads, and if you kill 4, he's going to throw 4 more out there. So it's more just like avoiding charging up your spear, killing the snake. And then, it opens up a slide. And then so the final boss, he was like a weird muscly dinosaur looking thing. And again, who doesn't like a dinosaur boss on a level like Prehistoria? And then from there, so your dog, again, he's like a big, burly, wolfy-looking caveman dog. You go to Antica. Your outfit never changes, but the dog does. And what? Antica, he is like a gray... What is it, a greyhound? Is that what they're called? And then the weird thing, or I guess the new thing in Antica, is that like your dog can jump. So you start to learn these other things too. So the Doberman dog can jump in Antica, and that's the one that's got, a pretty long, tough. It's got a big market and a big trading section. Excuse me. Getting thirsty. So that trading section, it's cool. At least the art is good. So it's like if you're looking to trade like bolts of fabric, you can like see them on the vendor booth. And then like the art style aside of this game is really nice. The colors really pop. Like each zone looks different on its own. And it's like the music is really good. I think the designer of this went on to like Elden Rings and things like that. And like the alchemy formulas, it's like you decide what you want to pick and throw into your game and how much you want to go. Like there's not a lot for equipment and weapons in this, but there's a lot for alchemy. So it's like action RPG where you're whacking stuff, but at the same time throwing spells to some flying things over there that you can't whack real well. And I think it just adds more to the game. And it gives you that kind of option if you want to spellcast or if you want to tank type of thing. So I like games that let you, just like nowadays games, I feel like have the option of you're going to go in guns blazing, or you have a lot of sneaking options where you can go in and take out one guy at a time and clear the area the same as you would go in guns blazing. So I'm trying to think any more about like Antica. It's there's still funny stuff throughout, like funny interactions with characters. And like in this one, there's like Coliseum fights. And I think this one has some Final Fantasy references. I think there's some Final Fantasy characters like in the crowd of the Coliseum fight. And I think, who is it? Cecil is a vendor. So there's Final Fantasy references. You got Back to the Future references. Plenty more. There's Zelda references. Like, what is he? He goes, and Prehistoria is grabbing stuff out of like a fish bag. And I think he grabs like a rupee, a key, and what else? Just something. It was obvious like Zelda references. So, again, this was developed by the people who made Secret of Mana, so it's not like they didn't know what they were doing. I think all the boss fights are unique. In that, there's one, the end boss fight isn't much. I guess I can leave that fight for you if you want to check that one out on your own. But the game itself, after Antica, it's got like pirates in Antica. You go and you got your Doberman, but then you're going to move on to Gothica, which is going to be like your castle and dragons. And that one, you play the dog for a lot of the castle part, and there's some of the mazes there are, I wouldn't say tough, but just annoying and tedious. I feel like the castle maze where you're running around doing stuff for the queen can get a little annoying. She turns out, it seems like every world has kind of this evil version of whoever that character is in charge of that utopia. So in Gothica, you're essentially overthrowing this evil queen. And there's some, like the unique fights in Gothica, there's like a giant rat fight, and that one might be the toughest because I think he's like out of reach. I think you have to do all spells on him. He's like a giant rat. And then there's this weird kind of creepy puppet fight where the king's like watching this weird puppet show. And I'm not sure what that reference is to, but it's a weird puppet with this like weird creepy evil face behind it. But anyway, your dog in Gothica turns into a very cute, adorable little pink poodle. So it's like he's got like the haircut and everything with the little bushy little tail on the end. But it's again with the like the colors in Gothica and stuff and the art I really enjoy. We'll move right through Gothica. There's also like that's the one level with that dark maze. And you're literally the thing is in that dark maze, like with your dog, it's like the whole screen's black. So even if you're running against a wall, your dog is still doing like a running animation, but you don't know if like your dog's moving or not. So it's hard to find the secrets there. And I know there's secrets in that one. So Gothica, again, beat some bosses. You head to your final stage, which is now in the future. Oh, and again, as you go to these levels, you exchange your currency. So in Gothica, you now have gold, but let's head on out to Omnitopia. And then you change in for the standard future currency of credits. So you trade in everything for credits. And it's weird because there's a lot of times, too, where it's like in this game, you can buy like this armor from a vendor, but then you go to this, let's say you find like this secret, then depending on if you have certain armor on you equipped already, will determine what the next item you would then get, whether you're going to get this spell or stuff for your alchemy formulas, ingredients and stuff. And it's almost like exponential. It's like if you have all 3 armor pieces and this other thing, then when you talk to this person, they're going to give you this third secret thing that you didn't know about. So there's a lot of cases of that too, where it's like in a lot of places where you don't need to buy armor because someone almost gives it to you in like the next screen, and just more trial and error that you wouldn't know. And I think that's almost, they're trying to avoid that. You go to a new town and buy everything just to go to another town, just to buy everything, equip it, and go to another town, buy it. So it's maybe they want to encourage you to like explore more in that case. But again, I think it just adds more to it. It's not just a standard go to your next thing, do this, go to your next thing, do this. And again, the replayability, because you can do things and before any sort of rewind or save states, that's just where your game was. So it's like if you didn't do your vendor quests or the vendor exchanges in that 15 minutes, you wouldn't get a chance again until you did another game. And I think with those vendors, I don't think you even need to do the 15-minute thing. I think you can get everything you need after, depending on where you are at in the game. So we've got our poodle. We're going on to Omnitopia, and now we get a fancy robot dog that looks like a toaster and shoots lasers. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that dog is 100% based on some old Doctor Who robot dogs. And his idle animation, if you let him stand still, it even like pops like burnt toast out of his back. Which is that cute, because I love some old idle animations. Right up there with Sonic tapping his foot. So without getting like too spoilery and stuff, I feel like Omnitopia is like the smallest and fastest level. It still looks nice. It's still got a laser dog, but it does end pretty quick. And, not that games were huge on post-credit scenes back then or anything, but there is a like interesting post-credit stuff. If you wait, you'll get a small little twist, but then it does even weird stuff where if you wait like another 15 minutes, some message pops up. It's more like an Easter egg. Like, you have a lot of patience. Why are you still here? Or some weird stuff the coders put in. And I think if you even wait longer, it's got like someone's name. It's like making fun of one of the developers or something. So I like it when developers are having fun putting Easter eggs into things. And it just feels like I like games that feel like it was just a room full of nerds making a game. So I'm trying to think and make sure I hit everything I wanted to. And like I said, Prehistoria is like the one now I can go back and play with my eyes closed. But we got our 4 dog types. We got our 4 levels. And I mean, that being said, this game really appealed to me. So as much as I love this game, I might gush too much on Mario 64 without talking about how crappy the controls can be. I don't want to just gush on all the games. I love them, but let's nitpick a little bit. I think the first stage is a bit tough if people get turned away from that difficulty, they don't get to see how pretty the rest of the game is. And I know there's mistakes as far as games. I'm sure they made games like Lion King Too Tough and Echo, but it is sad that nobody knows what the rest of those levels or worlds look like because no one ever made it to them. In this game in particular, the hitbox can be pretty lame for an action RPG, and where is your weapon hitting when it looks like it's hitting this, or diagonal stuff too, are always an issue with a D-pad and an overhead map. And again, these are just me nitpicking. Another one is the dog sniffing. I didn't mention it, but one of the RPG-like aspects of this game is you have this like toggle on how aggressive or defensive either the boy or the dog is, and you can like turn your dog's like sort of like his offense off to where he just smells for ingredients, and that can be annoying when he's sniffing and you can't, because then you have to tap a button to essentially dig up this ingredient, and it doesn't always work. And from what I read, the dog is always right. So, because I'm like, there's no way, I've touched everything here, but it's like there's some ingredient, it might be by his tail, but he'll stop at the ground and he'll sniff if he finds something, and you're supposed to dig it up. And it doesn't always work to great, it doesn't 100%, but I'm not taking points off even for that, because he's a good boy. I like him. And I mean, the last one is like the alchemy. I wrote not enough alchemy. And I mean that like there's too much alchemy. So it's like there's so many spells that, but you make it through the game fine without them. So it's like, I enjoyed all the alchemy just because I like kind of casting spells and squishing stuff together, but it's hard to, I guess, choose the route you want to go if you start putting energy into alchemy spells and leveling up spells that might not help you later in the game. I guess that's just more of the trial and error for you. But I mean, I saw this game on the shelf, Mighty Max looking box, Back to the Future looking guy.
Shut up and take my money.
There you go, Fry. Shut up and take my money when it comes to this game. We're going to wrap some stuff up here. We're going to talk about some awards. We're going to talk about some possible remakes that everybody wants. But we're going to get right into it. Let's go, awards.
Aren't you a little old for video games?
That man is playing Galaga. Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did.
Let's do all the things that you want to do.
Throw me a frickin' phone here. I'm the boss. Need the info.
I've lived in mortal terror that this would happen.
Get on with the ceremony!
All right, let's talk awards. Got 3 awards. First award is going to be for favorite level/era. And I don't have anyone's comments on this. And it wasn't a popular game. I really like this game, so I want to talk about it. Maybe some of you will hear it and play it. Maybe this episode just drifts off into the internet abyss. But my favorite era, I'll go with Prehistoria. And I know it's the one I know the best, and maybe it's kind of mud. It's a muddy green kind of color where it's like Gothica is really pretty with like stained glass windows behind things and castle looking stuff. And I like the pirate stuff in the Roman Colosseum type stuff in Antica. Like I said, Omnitopia is so short that it's hard to really see the design they had for it, and kind of plays just like a space station, but then the space station has just like barrels from Antica in it, so it's like I don't know if they meant to have some more there and ran out of time or room. But I'm gonna say Prehistoria. I like dog in that. I like a big aggressive looking wolf dog. I like the enemies. I like the exploring, the swamp part. And again, it's all, like I said, green and muddy, but I like Prehistoria. I'm going to go with that. We'll move on to our next award. Prehistoria is going to take it. And we'll go to Award 2, Hardest Boss. I mentioned it already, but it's definitely... What is his name? Rat... Oh, I thought I wrote it down. He's the rat guy. He's in Gothica. Venomator. That's it. And I feel like he's just constantly throwing stuff at you. You can't hit him. I'm not even sure you can throw the spear at him. He's cool looking. It's just kind of in a tiny room. But he's tough. He'll feed you your lunch if you don't have the right spells. I know there's also kind of game-breaking ways to where if you push your buttons like in a certain way or sequence, you can unload like 10 spells at once. And I don't think it changes the game or makes it any easier. It's just more tedious to cast just one spell at a time because the animations can take a minute. Not literal minute, but you know what I'm saying. So I'm going to vote him for the hardest boss because I know I had a tough time with him. Although I could say even Bugmuck. Almost like the first Goomba in Mario 1 could be like considered the hardest boss as far as his kill count. So I think I don't know if the Bugmuck's the level or if that's the name of that big red boss guy. He definitely killed me more than the rat, but by the time you get to Venomator, if you don't have certain things, it could hurt you as far as alchemy or leveled up weapons. So hardest boss, not favorite boss, not best looking boss, but just hardest for gameplay. I'm going to go with Venomator. All right, let's get on to Award 3 here. I mentioned it before, favorite version of the dog. And it's like, I like the Doberman because he can jump. I like Big Cave Dog because he looks cool. But it's like, who doesn't like a robot toaster dog that shoots lasers? And I'm also a huge fan of Mega Man. And we all love Rush. He's such a good boy. And he's a robot dog. So I think that's going to seal it. And we will go with Omnitopia's robot dog. I don't even know if he has a name. You can see how well I do any of my research here. No sort of like in-game name besides the name you gave him. So we'll go with Omnitopia's toaster, burnt toast, laser shooting dog. He'll be my favorite. We'll leave it at that as far as awards. I'm hoping this whole little award segment can get bigger because I want to hear your comments, and I'd like to put some polls out to where you guys can tell me what we should even vote for awards and stuff, and hopefully they get a little more silly down the road. Let's talk here, end of the episode, remake. We've mentioned before that at least re-release it on something. I don't even think it needs a remake. If you want to re-release it, fix the game-breaking bugs, maybe put in an option for that like vendor trading 15-minute sequence to like activate that again at certain points, and other than that, let people play this game for what it was. If you were going to remake it, it's like the people that have played it are clamoring for just a re-release. If you remade it, it would look good with like a Sea of Stars treatment with your overhead cleaning up graphics, but I think it looks sweet as it is. Just put it out there and let people play it more. As far as like a versus like a demake, we're talking Super Nintendo. This thing would chug on an NES. I don't see how it could look or function very well, because even like the Final Fantasy 1 on the NES is a bit rough. So I'd say no remake, no demake, just release this. Throw it up on the Switch Online. I know it's a Square game, but figure it out. We've got Rare games up there. We've got all sorts of stuff. Nintendo, get on it. Does this game rule? I don't have any fun buttons for that. Here we go. Yeah, the game rules. Of course it rules. you may not say the same thing. If you went in that prison door, I think it's is it Antica? No. Maybe. It's either Antica. I think it might be Gothica. I think it's later in the game because I think I did it once in it. You may not think this game rules if you had to reset your whole game because you opened the wrong door first. And I'm positive that's what it is. It's like a prison door you either come out of or you have to go into a certain one. So if you're anywhere where you're suddenly in prison or something, be real careful about what doors you're opening where. But yeah, to me, it officially rules. And from there, we're going to wrap this baby up. I'm just going to keep hitting buttons. So thanks for listening. Again, sorry I just kind of ramble. I'm just trying to kill some time. Hopefully you guys hear and enjoy me just talking about old things, maybe triggering some memories from you guys. If you made it through my nonsense this far, then maybe you're an insane person. But that's okay. Come join the club here. We got jackets. Again, send in your gaming and topic ideas to thatgamerules@gmail.com. I will keep looking into all the other stuff. I'll keep looking into social media, but keep watching for me everywhere you can there. Patreon.com/thatgamerules. It's all free for you guys to comment, get read on the show, vote in some polls here soon. I'm going to get all this stuff going live here. I'm just trying to bank a few episodes so I can release them all together so you guys can listen to this old man in his basement nerding out on games. Next week, we are going to dip our toes into the NES. I'm just going to keep going backwards. And we're going to talk about another all-time banger. I'm like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, we will do Mega Man 2. Is that my favorite Mega Man game? You'll have to wait and find out. But we're going to go over that in a bit more detail. Or I can just let the music play for Mega Man 2 for like an hour. And I'll probably get more downloads. But I want to review a Mega Man game because I want to talk about the bosses, the power-ups, we'll get all of that next week. But I love Mega Man games in the concept of the pattern. I love that you get a weapon that could that you don't know is going which weakness, which boss has the weakness for that particular weapon. Until, again, like trial and error, which was like, that's how just we had fun back then. It was trial and error. It wasn't instant anything. You got instant gratification when you were a kid and you're my age. You got that 2 days a year. It was Christmas and your birthday when you got to open a present and then you had a present. Like, other than that, you were earning your fun one way or another. You know, if you're outside earning it on the playground, then you're going to come home with some physical bumps and bruises, you know, and if you're earning it playing video games back then, you're going to have some mental bruises from some of those old games for sure. But again, it's like, I thought all this stuff was just, you know, as far as like a retro crowd, I thought it was just like us old people. But it just seems like teens and these young 20s are jumping into that. It doesn't even seem like they're in America. Half the time I talk to these guys, they're in like somewhere in like England over there, or like Brazil and some of these Australia. And they're just like starting these Super Nintendo collections, and I love it. And I hope you guys are looking for podcasts to listen to and hear me nerding out about it. Again, a little podcast cleanup before I end this thing. I have no idea what I'm doing. If this makes it up on the internet, then that's a plus for me. I mean, my only goal for any of this is to learn how to do it, just because one day I said I wonder if I could do that. And that's all that goes along with the podcast, the website design, like the social media. I essentially hate the internet and hate social media, so I've kind of like I've just cut myself off. I don't enjoy social media and all these kind of things. You know, I've always had a Facebook, but it's always been just like these dumb groups I'm in. I don't like talk to people. I'm very introverted and have a very small family. I have a small group of friends that I talk to. And I'm hoping someday to get tens of listeners to hear me on my podcast. But again, this is the kind of stuff that is insanely out of my comfort zone. And but I like to challenge myself. So just like with kids, someone told me if you wait to have kids till the right time, you'll never have them. So if you wait to do a podcast till it's the right time in your life, you'll never do it. Because Lord knows I don't have a lot of free time, but I feel like I'm terrible at this. But after even Mario last week, I was like looking forward to recording this and just talking about this game. So hopefully one or two people down the road appreciate it. Until then, again, Mega Man 2 next week. Go ahead and emulate this. There's good ROMs out there. I'm just going to tell you to because I think you should play it. I don't think we're ever going to see it released anywhere. So on that note, thanks again for listening. Thanks for giving me a chance, and we'll see you on the next one.